The American taxpayers, they put President Trump in office because of people like you. They have Republicans in charge of the House and Senate because of people like you. Because you don't care about 99% of this story. You don't want me to go through the list of all the evidence of waste and abuse.
No, what I want you to do,
and conflicts of interest.
What I want you to do,
unqualified recipients. You don't care about
what I want you to
oversight.
do is explain why the Department of Justice lawyers representing EPA in court under a duty of candor have said that everything you've just said isn't true. That's what I want. Get me that answer.
As you can see, the newly appointed EPA Administrator, Lee Zeldin, a career Republican politician and a loyal stooge to Donald Trump and his agenda, is not a fan of being held accountable. Now, let's take a look at how we got here. Zeldin isn't just ducking oversight, he's rewriting the job description. Trump didn't put him at the EPA to protect the environment. He put him there to gut it. And now that Senator Whitehouse is calling him out, Zeldin is doing the one thing MAGA Republicans do best: lie, deflect, and whine when someone holds up the receipts.
EPA's actions have made families worse off, ignored science, and eroded America's trust in your agency, and all for the benefit of polluters. The ongoing destruction at EPA violates legal contracts, violates the Constitution, violates the rule of law, and flouts many court orders. Again, all for the benefit of polluters. Thousands of EPA grantees at this point have received strikingly similar letters informing them that their work, and I quote, no longer aligns with administration priorities. I don't recall you ever saying that administration priorities oppose clean drinking water, child health research, home renovations that reduce household energy bills, flood mitigation projects, safer school buses, or community centers where seniors and families can retreat during heat waves and dangerous storms. Yet that's what you tell grantees.
Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse is not going to let the Trump bootlicker run away and hide from the damage he's currently doing and will do to millions of American families across the country by using his own employees' words against him, catching Zeldin in a lie backed by sworn court testimony. And that's the power of real oversight. Whitehouse didn't just grill Zeldin, he exposed him. Using testimony from EPA staffers, he showed that Zeldin personally intervened in funding decisions that defunded environmental justice grants and community protections. So when Republicans say they're only cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, remember, they mean your kids' clean air and water. They mean climate science. They mean anything that gets in the way of fossil fuel profits.
April 23rd, Daniel Coogan, for the EPA, filed a sworn statement in court that said, and I quote here, EPA leadership conducted an individualized grant-by-grant review to determine which grants should continue. He made that statement under oath, and on the following page of his declaration, he said that there were approximately 377 grantees that had received cancellation notices and another 404 grantees who would receive notices within the next 2 weeks, for a total, by my math, of 781 total grantees. Do you dispute his testimony that there were 781 individual grants at issue?
The exact number I don't have offhand, but
you don't dispute it. So let's say that it's 781 or thereabouts.
I did those myself.
Whitehouse used sworn testimony to prove Zeldin lied. And what did Zeldin say? That he reviewed the grants himself. That's it. That's the confession. Republicans want you to believe they're targeting inefficiency. What they're actually doing is targeting equity. These weren't bloated line items. They were programs that help communities fight asthma, industrial pollution, and toxic exposure. So when they talk about cutting fat from the budget, just know they're aiming at the lungs of vulnerable Americans.
His testimony under oath was that that took place. On May 6th, Travis Voiles of EPA made the following statement, also under oath, also in a court filing. He said, on February 25th, 2025, I conducted an individualized review of EPA grant programs That day, I decided that certain grant programs should be terminated for policy reasons. He said that he did this all on February 25th, which is interesting, because if he put in a 10-hour day, that's 600 minutes of time for 781 grant applications, which means he would have had to conclude his review of each of them in 45 seconds without even a bathroom break. The second thing about the statement is that he said, I conducted, not you conducted, Administrator Zeldon, not leadership conducted. He said he conducted, and he said that under oath. The third thing that was interesting is that he dropped in a weasel word, programs. He didn't say individualized review of grants. He said individualized review of grant programs. Mr. Zeldin, is there a difference between a grant and a grant program?
Well, you have individual grants inside of a grant program.
And you could have dozens or even hundreds of individual grants inside of a grant program, correct?
I know for a fact that Travis
Correct.
Voiles individually reviewed every single grant individually, and I know that I've reviewed every single grant individually, and I also know that
That is
Travis
not what the
Voiles
sworn
was working-
testimony indicates. Let me reclaim my time here.
But the fact
On
is,
May 16th,
we both individually reviewed all of the grants, and I know that he was working on it every single day, not just on one day.
Well, that's not what his sworn testimony was.
You know, this is precisely why Senator Whitehouse is one of the most effective elected officials when it comes to highlighting the depths of the corruption taking place in Washington. The only reason Zeldin is in this position is to do the bidding of the fossil fuel industry that helped fund Trump's campaign while rolling back regulations and cutting red tape that is supposed to keep these corporations in check, all at the expense of our health and the well-being of future generations, mind you. Make no mistake, Zeldin didn't stumble into this job. He was handpicked to destroy from the inside. His mission is to hand the keys to Exxon, Shell, every chemical lobbyist within earshot, roll back oversight, gut enforcement, strip out every environmental protection law by law, line by line, and do it while claiming it's for you, the taxpayer.
And on May 16th, DOJ career lawyers who are under an obligation of candor to the tribunal, upon which their right to practice law depends, filed a pleading in federal court that conceded that you had not done individualized grant-by-grant reviews. They were not contesting that APA failed to do an individualized review. In court, they admitted, in fact, their language is, defendants do not contest judgment on the merits of plaintiffs' APA claims. And then yesterday, you stated during your House E&C hearing that you personally reviewed all these grants. Here's what you said. I was the one who made the decision. And I made the decision after doing individual review. I personally reviewed every single grant that I canceled. Now, you guys are going to have to start getting your stories straight, because there are three completely different statements, and they cannot all be true. It cannot be that Voiles personally, himself, conducted the review of 781.
He did.
And that Coogan saw to it that it was individually done.
Others did. It's a crazy concept, Senator, but maybe more than one person was individually reviewing these grants. Maybe they were working on it for more than one day, Senator.
Will
Have
you
thought
show
about that concept?
Will you?
What about the fact
When
that
their
when
testimony
each of these,
is that they did it all on one day, no, I do
announce
not.
every single time.
I do not
that I
agree
was
with that,
canceling the
Administrator.
grant, Senator.
He swore in court that he did it on one day. So you can't now come in and say that that's false.
On a day after you worked on it,
He
busting
didn't
your
say.
ass for a while to get all of your ducks lined up,
That's
to
not
do
what
all
he
the
said.
research, to ask questions, to make sure you're making responsible decisions.
None of that is what he
Because
said.
you're not worried that there's going to be some ranking member at the
None of that
CBW
is what he
committee
said.
who doesn't care about the facts.
None of that is what he said. I'm using the facts as your employees
I've conducted
stated
an
them.
individual review of everything, and that concept doesn't work for you.
When did you conduct an individualized
Work on it
review
every
of
single
781
day, because
grants?
we have a zero tolerance
Will you
policy
show me
towards
your
wasting
schedule?
dollars. We inherit something. You don't care about wasting money.
Will you show me
you
your
don't care
schedule?
about wasting money, but the Trump administration does, Senator.
After Whitehouse boxed him in with facts, Zeldin did exactly what we've come to expect from MAGA officials. He flipped the script. He accused Whitehouse and Democrats of encouraging waste. He tried to make them the villains for daring to spend federal funds on clean air and climate action. It's the classic Trump playbook. When you're exposed, attack the truth teller. And in today's political climate, truth is a liability for people like Zeldon.
Will you
Moment of
show
the
me
day
your
that
schedule
it's
to
publicly
prove
released.
your assertion
I'm
that
here
you
under
did
oath,
individualized
Senator.
review of
They're
781?
under oath telling you that I was reviewing this stuff and working on it almost every single day.
And the
Why?
problem
Because
with
when I
that-
was before this committee, I was asked by Senator Ricketts, if confirmed, would I immediately make this a top priority to go through all the grant funding going through EPA to make sure that we are cracking down on every waste, every aspect of abuse, because I have to come back here in front of Senator Ricketts today. And even though you don't care about wasting tax dollars, Senator Ricketts does.
And the
I'm going to do
problem-
my job because the American public
And the
cares
problem-
about us not wasting tax dollars.
And the problem with your assertion here today is that it is belied by your own employees' sworn statements in court and by the decision of the
Senator,
Department of
you're not
Justice
grasping
to
the fact.
admit that what you
No,
say
you're
isn't
not grasping
true.
the fact that we would have multiple employees looking at these grants. That concept just escapes you like that's even a possibility.
The only
You
thing
come
about
here
that is that
and
that's
you don't
not
care
true.
about 99% of the story.
That's not true according to your own
You're not
employees'
grasping
testimony.
it, Senator. I don't know what to say to you. You're insisting on the fact.
I'm
that
insisting on the facts.
that
That's
he
exactly
only-
what I'm insisting
Yes,
on. I'm
okay.
insisting on the facts, and I now have
I will
three
say
different
again
versions of the facts,
that Travis
including
Hoyles
Department
and
of
I
Justice
and others
lawyers
are working on this every
who
single day
admitted
that
in
we're
court
in
that
office.
what you're saying
and we're
now
not going
is
to
not
waste
true.
dollars just because you insist on EPA lighting taxpayer dollars on fire. The American taxpayers, they put President Trump in office because of people like you. They have Republicans in charge of the House and Senate because of people like you. Because you don't care about 99% of this story. You don't want me to go through the list of all the evidence of waste and abuse.
And let's not pretend this is about budget discipline. When Trump's people say they want to root out waste, fraud, and abuse, what they really mean is destroy public services, tear down every government program that makes life bearable for working families. This is not about efficiency, it's about erosion. Erode trust, erode protections, erode the very idea that the federal government can and should act in the public good. Because their end game isn't fixing the system, it's privatizing it and cashing the checks on the way out.